What's up, everyone? Have you ever stopped to think how a giant with massive plates on its back and a tail full of spikes could dominate a world as brutal as the Jurassic? The Stegosaurus wasn't just another dinosaur, it was a living enigma. Why were its plates so large? Were they meant to intimidate predators, regulate its temperature, or something we can't even imagine? The answers to these questions will be revealed by the end of this video, but first, let's explore how the Stegosaurus transcended its time. From its discovery during the fierce bone wars, a pivotal moment in paleontology, to the modern theories that continue to uncover its behavior and adaptations, this dinosaur has become a true cultural and scientific icon. In this video, we'll travel back in time to the exact moment its fossils were unearthed, uncovering one of the greatest mysteries of the Jurassic world. Are you ready? Then let's go. The year was 1877. Deep in the vast deserts and arid plains of the American West. It was a setting straight out of a classic Western, filled with swirling dust and scorching heat. Here, a group of paleontologists raced against time and each other in a frenzied competition to unearth the Earth's greatest buried secrets. This was the height of the infamous Bone Wars, a historic rivalry between two scientists, Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope. Their fierce competition to discover the most spectacular dinosaur fossils escalated to the point of sabotage and public accusations. Amid this chaos, Marsh made one of the most intriguing discoveries of the era: the first fragments of a dinosaur that would later be named Stegosaurus. These fossils were uncovered in Morrison, Colorado, at a site already known for yielding incredible prehistoric species. But what set these fossils apart was the unusual design of the bony plates and spikes found with them. As Marsh began piecing everything together, he realized he had stumbled upon something entirely new, something that challenged the prevailing ideas of the time about how dinosaurs looked. At first, scientists believed the Stegosaurus's dorsal plates were a kind of armor, similar to a turtle's shell, laid over its back to protect its body. The initial reconstruction, to be honest, was a disaster. They envisioned the plates arranged as a continuous shield covering the dinosaur's back, almost like a medieval suit of armor or, indeed, a turtle's shell. Little did they know at the time that these plates were arranged in a far more elegant and functional pattern. The discovery of the Stegosaurus was revolutionary, but it came with its share of mysteries. There were questions no paleontologist could yet answer. How did this animal use its plates? What was the purpose of those deadly spikes on its tail? And perhaps most baffling of all, how could such a massive dinosaur survive with such a small brain? This blend of enigmas and scientific breakthroughs turned the Stegosaurus into one of the most fascinating dinosaurs of the Jurassic. It wasn't just a giant that walked the Earth millions of years ago. It became a window into the complexity of evolution itself. Every bone fragment seemed to whisper forgotten stories, echoing from an age when monsters roamed the land. But the story of the Stegosaurus was only just beginning. In this video, we'll dive deep into its bizarre and unique body to uncover the secrets behind this incredible creature. Let's get started. Now imagine a colossus roaming the forests of the late Jurassic, around 150 million years ago. The Stegosaurus was a masterpiece of natural design, as strange as it was fascinating. Weighing between 3 and 4 tons, it was heavier than a modern SUV, with a length that could reach up to 30 feet. But this was no ordinary animal. It was a true biological war tank, a walking fortress built to survive in a dangerous world filled with predators. The body of the Stegosaurus looked like something out of a science fiction movie. Its back was adorned with 2 rows of massive bony plates, alternating along its spine. These plates came in a variety of shapes, from almost triangular to more rounded, and could reach up to 2 feet tall. They weren't fused to its skeleton like a turtle's shell. Instead, they were connected to the skin and supported by soft tissue, allowing for a degree of flexibility. Here's the fascinating detail. Scientists discovered that these plates contained blood vessels running through them. This suggests that, beyond protection, the plates might have served other functions, such as regulating body temperature or even changing color to intimidate predators or attract mates. But it doesn't stop there. If the plates were impressive, the spikes on its tail, known as the Thagomizer, were downright lethal. Typically featuring 4 spikes, Though some species had 5, these deadly weapons could grow up to 3 feet long and were as sharp as a medieval lance. With a well-placed strike, the Stegosaurus could puncture the flesh of any predator bold enough to attack. Fossil evidence later revealed marks from these spikes on the bones of carnivorous dinosaurs like the Allosaurus, proving that the Stegosaurus knew exactly how to wield its tail for self-defense. Despite its impressive arsenal, the Stegosaurus wasn't a predator or natural aggressor. In reality, it was a peaceful herbivore, preferring to slowly wander and graze on low-lying vegetation while observing the world around it. Its low, bulky body, combined with hind legs significantly longer than its front legs, gave it a sloped, almost awkward posture. But don't be fooled. This physical structure was perfectly suited to its lifestyle and specialized diet. This unique body design also raised important questions. How did such a large animal move? Certainly wasn't fast, but it was stable. And those plates, did they hinder its movement? Apparently not. In fact, their alternating arrangement might have contributed to a surprising balance as it strolled across the plains. All of it, the size, the plates, the spikes, made the Stegosaurus an evolutionary marvel. It was the perfect combination of defense, survival, and bizarre elegance. A true living tank, but far more complex and sophisticated than any machine humans have ever created. Now, let's dive into one of the most fascinating and perhaps most puzzling details about the Stegosaurus: its brain. Imagine a gigantic animal, weighing nearly 4 tons and stretching almost 30 feet in length, with a brain that weighed just about 80 grams. Yes, 80 grams. To put that into perspective, it was roughly the size of a walnut or a small lime. This disparity between body size and brain size earned the Stegosaurus a less than flattering reputation over the years. It was often labeled as dumb or primitive, but is that reputation truly fair? Let's see what science has to say about it. The Stegosaurus's brain was housed in an unusually small cranial cavity, given the size of the rest of its body. This characteristic, known as low encephalization, means it had a brain-to-body weight ratio far below that of many other animals. However, that doesn't mean it was incapable of surviving or adapting to its environment. After all, the Stegosaurus lived and thrived in its habitat for millions of years. And surviving for that long is not something dumb animals do. Here's where things get even more intriguing. In the 19th century, some scientists theorized that the Stegosaurus had a second brain near its pelvic region. This idea stemmed from the discovery of an unusual cavity in that area, larger than the cranial cavity that housed its actual brain. At first, they believed this secondary brain might help control its massive tail and hind legs. Although this theory was later debunked, scientists now believe the cavity was likely used to store glycogen, an energy source. It added to the mystery surrounding the Stegosaurus and its nervous system. Despite its small brain, the Stegosaurus was far from defenseless or slow mentally. It had enough sensory capabilities to detect predators and use its impressive spiked tail with deadly precision. The brain might have been small, but the body did all the heavy lifting. There's another important point to consider. The Stegosaurus was a product of its time. In the late Jurassic, intelligence wasn't the primary requirement for survival. It was more about strength, adaptation, and coexisting with giants like Allosaurus and Diplodocus. The Stegosaurus had exactly what it needed to survive in its world. Nothing more, nothing less. The tiny brain of the Stegosaurus serves as a reminder that size, or even complexity, doesn't always define success. It was a perfectly tuned piece of the evolutionary puzzle of its era. And this peculiar detail makes it all the more fascinating. How did a giant with such a small brain manage to be so incredible? If the Stegosaurus could thrive with a brain the size of a walnut, surely you can do something amazing today, like subscribing to the channel. It's quick, it's free, and it helps us keep these Jurassic stories alive. Let's make it happen. The dorsal plates of the Stegosaurus are undoubtedly one of its most striking and mysterious features. They stood out like the sails of a prehistoric ship, arranged in 2 alternating rows along its back. These plates varied in shape and size, some exceeding 2 feet in height, and were made of solid bone covered by a thin layer of skin. But here's the question that has intrigued scientists and enthusiasts for over a century. What were they for? The initial theory, formulated shortly after the discovery of the Stegosaurus, was that these plates served as armor, protecting the dinosaur from predators. After all, in a world ruled by carnivores like Allosaurus, any additional defense would have been valuable. However, as scientists studied these structures more closely, they discovered something intriguing. The plates were too fragile to provide real protection. They weren't directly connected to the dinosaur's bones, but were instead supported by soft tissue, making them vulnerable to direct attacks. This led to another theory. Some researchers suggested that the plates were used for temperature regulation. Blood vessels found within the plates indicated they could function as radiators, helping the Stegosaurus dissipate heat on hot days or absorb heat during cooler periods. Picture a massive animal with a slow metabolism, living in an environment that ranged from dense forests to arid plains. Regulating body temperature would have been a significant advantage for survival. But the story doesn't end there. More recent studies suggest that the Stegosaurus's plates might also have served a display function. Yes, much like a prehistoric peacock, the Stegosaurus may have used its plates to stand out, whether to impress potential mates during courtship rituals or to intimidate rivals or predators. This idea becomes even more fascinating when we consider that the plates could have changed color. That's right. Thanks to the blood vessels running through them, the Stegosaurus might have been able to alter the coloration of its plates to communicate different states, such as aggression, alertness, or readiness to mate. So what's the truth? Were the plates armor, body temperature regulators, or prehistoric fashion statements? The most likely answer is that they were multifunctional. They could have been used for thermoregulation at times, display purposes at others, and perhaps even occasionally to confuse predators. This kind of versatile adaptation is a hallmark of evolution. The dorsal plates of the Stegosaurus are a perfect example of how nature can create something both incredibly unique and functional. They weren't just decoration, they were an essential part of the Stegosaurus's survival strategy. And that brings up another fascinating question. What else did the Stegosaurus have in its arsenal for protection? Let's find out. If the Stegosaurus's dorsal plates were an elegant display of its uniqueness, its spiked tail was the deadly answer to any threat daring enough to cross its path. This tail, known as the Thagomizer, was made up of 4 long, razor-sharp spikes, each capable of reaching nearly 3 feet in length. And it wasn't just for show. It was a weapon designed to deal serious damage. Picture this: a hungry Allosaurus, one of the largest predators of the Jurassic, spots a Stegosaurus. Confident in its speed and strength, the predator decides to attack. But what it doesn't realize is that the Stegosaurus is far from easy prey. As the Allosaurus lunges for a side attack, the Stegosaurus swiftly swings its tail, and bam! One of the spikes lands a direct hit with enough force to pierce through flesh and bone. This defense was so effective that fossils of carnivores like Allosaurus have been found with clear injuries caused by Stegosaurus spikes. One fossil even shows evidence of a punctured pelvis, suggesting that this tail could be used with surgical precision. But how could a creature with such a small brain wield such a dangerous weapon so skillfully? Here's the fascinating detail. The Stegosaurus's tail was controlled by a set of extremely powerful muscles and efficient nerves. Despite its small brain, its nervous system was capable of reacting quickly to threats, especially in dangerous situations. It didn't need to think hard to use its tail. It was an automatic, lethal response. The term Thagomizer actually has a humorous origin. It comes from a 1980s comic strip In the Far Side by Gary Larson. In the comic, a dinosaur professor points to a Stegosaurus tail on a diagram and names the spikes Thagomizer, after a fictional character, Thag Simmons, who had apparently fallen victim to it. While it began as a joke, paleontologists embraced the term, and it's now the official name for this remarkable structure. Interestingly, the Stegosaurus didn't use its Thagomizer passively. When confronted, it would take on a defensive posture, lowering its body to protect its vulnerable underside, keeping its plates visible to intimidate, and swinging its tail as a clear warning that any attack would be met with full force. This behavior demonstrated that, while the Stegosaurus was a peaceful herbivore, it was more than ready to fight for its life when necessary. The Thagomizer was more than just a weapon. It symbolized the duality of the Stegosaurus. It might have looked slow, perhaps even clumsy, but its defenses were as formidable as a war tank. In the harsh, brutal world of the late Jurassic, this lethal tail was one of its greatest guarantees of survival. So, what do you think about the Thagomizer, the most dangerous tail of the Jurassic world? Would you use it as a weapon, or do you think it was purely for defense? Drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Now, let's keep going. Amid the vast landscapes of the late Jurassic, the Stegosaurus spent most of its days in a routine far less aggressive than its deadly tail might suggest. It was a peaceful herbivore, slowly wandering through forests and plains in search of its next meal. With its short neck and small teeth, it wasn't equipped to chew tough or tall vegetation. Instead, its diet consisted of low-lying plants like ferns, cycads, and even small conifers. The Stegosaurus's peculiar mouth, shaped like a beak, was perfectly designed for snipping vegetation before swallowing. It didn't grind its food. Instead, it tore off chunks and swallowed them whole. To compensate for its lack of chewing, the Stegosaurus relied on its robust digestive system. Scientists believe it may have swallowed small stones, known as gastroliths, to help break down plant material in its stomach, much like some modern birds do. Its feeding habits also explained its sloped posture, with hind legs much longer than its front legs. This body design made perfect sense for a low-grazing herbivore. It could move slowly with its head close to the ground, efficiently cropping plants as it roamed its territory. Despite its intimidating appearance, the Stegosaurus was a peaceful creature, perfectly adapted to its specialized diet. Interestingly, its eating habits didn't just benefit itself. As a massive herbivore, the Stegosaurus played a critical role in its ecosystem. By consuming large quantities of plants and trampling vegetation in the process, it created natural clearings that encouraged the growth of new plants and provided space for other animals. In many ways, the Stegosaurus wasn't just a part of its time. It actively shaped its environment, helping to maintain the balance between flora and fauna. And so, while its plates and tail defended it from predators, its diet and peaceful behavior formed the foundation of its survival. Yet, the Stegosaurus wasn't an isolated anomaly in the world of dinosaurs. It was part of a larger family of armored giants, each with fascinating traits that help us understand even more about the impact of this lineage on Earth's history. The Stegosaurus was undoubtedly the most iconic member of its family, but it wasn't alone in the vast clan of Stegosauridae. This lineage of armored herbivorous dinosaurs included other fascinating relatives that thrived in different parts of the world, proving that the living fortress design was an evolutionary success. Each of these relatives had unique adaptations that reflected the challenges of their specific habitats. One of the most notable relatives was the Kentrosaurus, which roamed Africa during the Jurassic period. Smaller than the Stegosaurus, the Kentrosaurus measured about 15 feet in length, but its defenses were no less impressive. Instead of large triangular plates, it was covered with elongated spikes running along much of its body, creating a barrier of spears. Combined with the deadly spikes on its tail, it posed a serious threat to any predator daring to approach. Another intriguing member of this family was the Huayangosaurus, discovered in China and considered one of the earliest known stegosaurs. It was smaller and more primitive, but its plates and spikes already showed the early signs of the defensive strategies that its larger relative, the Stegosaurus, would perfect millions of years later. The Huayangosaurus provides crucial insights into the evolution of this lineage and how the iconic features of Stegosauridae developed over time. What connects all these relatives is the ingenuity of their adaptations. Each species struck a unique balance between defense, survival, and functionality. Some relied more on intimidating plates, while others focused on spikes for close combat protection. This diversity within a single family showcases how evolution was shaped by the environment and the specific challenges each species faced. Despite their differences, all these dinosaurs shared a common legacy, mastering both passive and active defense strategies in a world where survival was an ongoing battle. While the Stegosaurus may be the most famous of them all, it's through its relatives that we gain a deeper understanding of how these armored giants dominated the Jurassic. This dominance, of course, helped solidify their fame, not just in fossil records but also in modern culture, where their legacy lives on, from scientific discoveries to cinematic representations. The Stegosaurus may have disappeared millions of years ago, but its legacy continues to captivate generations, coming to life on one of the biggest stages in pop culture, the movies. This armored giant made its most memorable debut in Jurassic Park, The Lost World, where it stole the show in the film's opening scenes. Steven Spielberg knew exactly what he was doing when he spotlighted the Stegosaurus. Its unique appearance, with spectacular plates and a spiked tail, made it perfect for dazzling both the characters on screen and audiences in theaters. In the scene, a group of Stegosaurus is spotted near a river, their imposing plates standing out against the Jurassic landscape. At first, they appear peaceful, but they quickly turn aggressive when they sense a threat. The tension builds as the dinosaurs swing their tails as lethal weapons, demonstrating just how formidable the Stegosaurus could be. This portrayal struck a perfect balance. Not just a slow, plant-eating creature, but also a dangerous survivor when necessary. The cultural impact of this scene was immediate. Children and adults worldwide came to recognize the Stegosaurus as an icon of the Jurassic Era. It wasn't just a dinosaur in the film, it was a star. And the best part? The film's production team went to great lengths to make the Stegosaurus as scientifically accurate as possible, basing its movements and behavior on paleontological research. Of course, a few creative liberties were taken, but the essence of the Stegosaurus as a peaceful yet formidable armored giant remained intact. But the influence of the Stegosaurus didn't stop there. Beyond movies, it became a favorite in museums, toys, documentaries, and even video games. Its unmistakable form, the alternating plates, lethal spikes, and robust body, makes it one of the easiest dinosaurs to identify, even for those who aren't dinosaur enthusiasts. It wasn't just a survivor of its time. It transcended it, becoming an eternal figure in human imagination. This modern portrayal of a dinosaur that lived over 150 million years ago reminds us of how much we can still learn from the past. And if the Stegosaurus managed to shine even in Jurassic Park, I think it's earned a like on this video, don't you? Help spread this content so we can keep bringing more videos like this straight to you. Let's make it happen. Today, millions of years after its extinction, the legacy of the Stegosaurus remains alive, not just in fossils carefully preserved in museums, but also in the collective imagination of humanity. It transcends its role as a creature of the past and has become a cultural, scientific, and even artistic icon. Few dinosaurs have the same visual and symbolic appeal, with its dorsal plates and spiked tail striking the perfect balance between the exotic and the familiar. The Stegosaurus is so widely recognized that, in 1982, it was declared the official state dinosaur of Colorado, a region where many of its fossils have been discovered. This designation symbolizes not only the scientific significance of these discoveries, but also the emotional and cultural connection that locals have with this Jurassic giant. It's a reminder of how Earth's history and its creatures continue to shape our identity and fascination. Science has yet to answer some of the most pressing questions about this dinosaur, such as the true purpose of its plates or how its small brain influenced its behavior. These mysteries continue to fuel curiosity, driving new research and inspiring minds around the world. And so, as we marvel at its monumental fossils and impressive digital reconstructions, the Stegosaurus continues to walk alongside us. Not in the forests of the Jurassic, but in our minds. More than just a dinosaur, it serves as a reminder that Earth's history is filled with mysteries waiting to be uncovered, and that the distant past still has much to teach us about the present and the future. Did you enjoy traveling through time with the Stegosaurus? Then show some love by helping us grow the channel. Subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Every little action helps us bring more Jurassic stories your way. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next journey into the world of dinosaurs.